Hello, everybody. Welcome to Adobe Live. It's a beautiful day to be here on Behance. We are here with none other than Ambert Rodriguez from Wheelhouse. We're going to get into his intro in a second, but before we do, let me introduce what we're talking about today, which was Paul Tranny had his amazing performance with his creative challenge. And then make sure to, after this show, check out, or at 2 p.m. every day of this week, check out the creative challenges with Jesse Showalter. So if we can show my screen for a sec, I can go over some of the details of the challenge and introduce you to the space where your challenges are going to take place. So it's behance.net creative challenge, challenge/XD. And you can go right into the challenge. Day one is hosted right here. So you can get started with that file whenever you want. It's free to join. There's no competition, just awesome design. And then what's really great is then you get access to this community where you can have Discord as your basically your go-to place for feedback, for design reviews. If you're in progress, just feel free to share them here. It's a really great community to be a part of. Even if you're not taking part of the challenge, I still really encourage you to just check it out. So that's the creative challenge, and I would encourage you all to join. And hello to everybody that is joining us today. I would love to know where you're coming from, and just drop in your location. I'm actually joining you from Austin, Texas. And so let's get into where are you joining us from, Ambert, and tell us more about yourself.
Awesome. So glad to be here. Definitely thanks again for the opportunity, to Adobe and the team. And Julian, excited to be with you in this live stream.
Yeah.
So I am located in Miami, Florida. I don't know if you can see the background here, but yeah, I'm in sunny, beautiful South Florida. It is that's a good day. It's only 79 degrees outside, so it's nice. A nice and kind of.
We have similar weather. Before I moved to Austin, I thought like it was like a desert. Like I thought it was like, I don't know why. Like I should have just connected the dots. But like it's like very tropical, right? And it's like that's how it is where you're at.
Yes, definitely. Great weather for to being outdoors and enjoying just life in general.
We got people from everywhere joining the chat. So we got it's moving so fast. We got Stony Braswell from Fort Worth, Texas. We got Caitlin from Tempe. We have Carol is I believe that's a Spanish flag in the United States. We have Ikaris from Liberia, wow. Pearl from Midland. So yeah, we got tons of people joining in. Would love to hear more as we go throughout this day, asking questions. But yeah, let's hear more about Ambert.
Absolutely. So I'll share my screen here. So I put together just kind of a slideshow right here on Adobe XD. You can use it for, obviously experience design, user interface design, and all of that, but you could also use it for presentations too. So I'll just kind of go through a little bit about who I am. So again, Ambert Rodriguez, creative director and partner at Wheelhouse. And you check out more at wheelhouse.io. We're a sports, media, and consumer goods brand agency and investment firm. I've been doing design work since I graduated. After I graduated high school, and I'll date myself, but this was 1990. I graduated high school in 97, so I started really dabbling in design in 1998. So I've been doing it for quite some time, and from print design to digital design to even getting into knowing some code and HTML and all of that. this is just some of the work that we've done in the past from, clients like Blockworks, which is a cryptocurrency news media outlet. Done Front Office Sports, which is another news media outlet, just kind of around the business of sports. And you'll see a lot of kind of clients that we worked in here from sports to consumer goods and stuff like that, kind of a niche that we've kind of built in. And this is another client work that we've done some advertising campaigns for House of Athlete, some package design, and some web design for, consumer good products, some, digital graphics and stuff like this for, for some sports management companies and clients and stuff like this. Digital app design that we've been working on for a little bit here. This is like a kind of live streaming marketplace, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, we've run the gamut of different kind of designs that I've done, from again print to marketing campaigns, advertising campaigns, you name it.
Nice.
I've done it. Thanks, appreciate that. So I think I've kind of broken down kind of what we're going to be doing, in this live stream. The idea is to design an e-commerce website for a consumer good, which is this company called Hyperice. There's just this concept idea of rebranding them and building out a new website for them. I'm a big fan of the product. As you can tell from my first slide here, I do a lot of, cycling and stuff like this. And so, every time I get home from a long cycle, 60 miles, 70 miles, 80 miles, I'll use their product to help with kind of recovery for the next day's exercise. So I'm a big fan of their product, and I always, imagine kind of what it would look like if it got a rebrand. So I'm just taking the opportunity now to do it. It's obviously a concept idea. So, I'm excited to get started. So this is kind of the high level kind of process I would go through if I were to rebrand, right. A client project. There's obviously some steps in here that we're kind of, glossing through and just for the sake of the live stream, but obviously what the ask is, why they're asking for it. We'll go into kind of the competitive landscape, put together SWOT analysis, all of this to kind of to see kind of where they land as a brand, right? Mm-hmm. Then we'll go into kind of what that brand design looks like on the brand side of it, and then on the digital kind of website side, we'll go into kind of a user flow for the website. Go from right there, go into wireframing it out a little bit, and then deep dive into the high def designs.
Awesome. So if you anybody out there has any questions about any of this Ambert's work, or if you were an avid cyclist, we'd also like to hear from you, because I wouldn't say I'm avid. Like I'm not like I'm more recreational with the family, kind of getting around town. I do love to bike. So I'm really pumped that like you're taking on this challenge, and especially like in a brand that you actually like. Like I think that also is sometimes as someone who also works in the agency world, you don't always get to choose what brand you're redesigning, right? Right. Sometimes it's kind of random, like depending on, well, you're in this sports world, so you kind of do get like a certain clientele, but it's also really nice to just reach to something that you like and say like, what if it looked like this? Like that would be really cool. Right.
Yeah, just like you interact with the brand, right? And so you always feel like, what if it felt like this is how I feel the brand should feel like, because I'm using the brand, right? They say you don't say what your brand is, your customers do, right? So that's kind of like the whole idea of branding in itself. So yeah, obviously any questions, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to help answer, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Sweet.
Awesome. So we could deep dive right into this. So the brief, I kind of just wrote this up. Obviously, a concept here is to create a concept design for a Hyperice rebrand of their logo and website, right? I usually like to put in some kind of adjectives that I feel kind of represent the brand. and the direction that they want to go in.
Right.
So in my mind, I put bold, trustworthy, and innovative. And why I say trustworthy is obviously, this is kind of a recovery product, right? To help you with, with kind of recovering your body. One of the biggest things, athletes that, they talk about, I've done a lot of work with athletes, and one of the things that they always talk about is, yes, you have to train hard, you have to be, mentally fit and, to be an athlete. And, but one of the biggest things is recovery, right? If you don't recover well, you can't perform to your, to the elite level that you want to perform at. And I think this goes for everything that we do in life, right? I think, even in our businesses, in our work life, if you're not recovering, don't mean to go down that rabbit hole, but if you're not recovering well, then So, but
I agree, and as someone that a lot of design friends, and one of the things that I feel that happens to us is usually we don't sleep that well, right? Depending on, our creative hour might be like the witching hour, depending on people's style. But that sleep, or that to be able to have a system for yourself, it's really like innovating a system that helps you recover faster, whatever it is that you do. And if that could be a product, then hey, let's leverage that and innovate in that sense. So I really dig that approach.
Absolutely. So you want to, if you want to be able to kind of reach the people that you're reaching, the athletes, you have to have that kind of trustworthiness, that and obviously be innovative in kind of the products that you're building.
That's awesome.
And then I would deep dive into a competitive landscape, right? Put an analysis together on what your competitors are doing, and also yourself as well as a brand, kind of where you want to go, what is the mission, the core values, that the strengths, the weaknesses that you have as a brand, and kind of build around that. And then obviously that will help kind of be your North Star in a way, as you're putting together your brand strategy and all of this. And then so this is kind of the Hyperice's current look and feel, their logo. Obviously, it's a great logo. It looks really nice and all of this. Obviously it's gotten to them where they're at now. And in my mind, I just feel like I could use a little bit of elevation, a little bit of cleanness, right? I think to kind of feel like a technology company.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll show you guys a little bit here, but I'll leave this slide open. I did a couple of rebrand, new logos, just kind of sketching things out, and I can show you guys the Illustrator file. But yeah, so I chose my favorite, but I'd love to know from kind of the chat and people that are watching is what number is your favorite? If you were the client, which one would you go with, and stuff like this. I know obviously every kind of look and feel has its own story. I'm not going to get into specifically that at this moment, but yeah, I mean, I think so, just so you guys can see a little bit of the scatterbrain. I'd like to do a lot of this kind of non-destructive editing, where I'll start with an idea, I'll continue to kind of move it along. Here's a good example, right? So I started with kind of this kind of perfect square, making an H, wonder what it would look like if I kind of, rounded out those corners a bit. If I round out the top corners, right? And then I just kind of started going up, seeing how I can simplify this a little bit, making it a little bit more custom. This one was my favorite one, obviously, so I chose that one. Obviously there's a lot of options here that I kind of went through just to kind of have fun. I start putting up some different type nice. And stuff like that to play around with, and then obviously kind of landed with with these options.
So people in the chat are already kind of chiming in. So awesome. We got number 4 is a favorite and number 5 is a favorite. So it's really interesting how the idea of a mark can resonate so differently with so many people, and it could be the difference of just one line in a logo that could make the cut. So we'd like to continue to know what everyone likes in terms of the logo choices. But also, just if you are joining us just for the first time or didn't see the intro, I'm with Ambert Rodriguez. He's a designer at Wheelhouse, the co-partner at Wheelhouse, and he's going to take us through the journey of a e-commerce experience. So just if you have any questions, just reach out. We're just here for knowledge and information sharing, and just also we're both bald people, so just always support the bald guys.
Bald and bearded, yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
bald and bearded. That's right. I happen to covering mine up because I have I haven't shaved
Awesome.
it. It's not clean yet.
Awesome. So I chose, my favorite one was option number 3. I wanted to go with, I like the idea of having like a type treatment or a word mark, but I think for this brand itself, it needs an icon, right? So that it could live on the product. It could be recognizable that way. And that the icon can kind of, symbolize the brand itself, almost like the Nike swoosh or like the Apple icon, stuff like that. So,
and I also appreciate like that, because like looking at their current logo, you could tell like they have an intention on style, right? Like they had this idea of like merging the logo into like one kind of overlapping word, and it's very stylized. So like they seem like the company that they want this mark type logo with, not just typeface, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So to bring that a little bit further, like I kind of mocked up what like the box would look like, right? When you get it in, when you get the product, that kind of experience. So if you don't know about Hyperice, what they are is like percussion therapy. I don't know if you've probably seen those kind of massage guns and like, the compression for the legs and stuff like that. So this idea of these kind of like vibrating or moving lines and stuff like that, I think is kind of interesting for like packaging and maybe branded material, maybe even on the website, or I don't know. We'll see where that lands. But I think it's pretty cool to kind of see that visually, and maybe it kind of help come to life as opposed to just seeing it flat. And whenever I'm doing, and obviously kind of seeing the icon down there already starts kind of building up a little bit of that like brand, recognizability and stuff like that. So
it's telling the story throughout, right?
Absolutely. And so I think that's if there's any questions there, obviously, shoot them out. I can start deep diving. What the next step, obviously, what we go into when we're building out a website is to kind of gather all of the information, right? And put it kind of visually before we start, putting any design to any pixels. And kind of the first step to that is building kind of a user flow, right? So that we can start to see, obviously, you have your products page, you have your product landing page, but this can get, a little bit more in depth, right? How do they communicate with each other? What's the flow that they're going to go from? Do they go straight to a product page, or do they go to a product landing page and then they go to the product description pages? Like what does that look like? And obviously every project is different, but we're just kind of hypothetical here. So
for sure.
Awesome. So I'm just going to do a little bit of that really quick, just so we can all be on the same page. And so I'm going to be using a plugin here on XD called Whiteboard. Have you ever used it before?
I have used Whiteboard in collaboration sessions too, and I really do think it's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it just having these frameworks just like available is such a shortcut. I appreciate
absolutely
it, for sure.
Yeah, it has some pretty cool things in here, like even like how we were talking about the landscape or like the competitive analysis. They have some SWOT analysis templates here and stuff like that, which are interesting. But I'm going to go straight to the bottom where it has like this flow chart. And I'm just going to click on that, and it should just give me a new artboard here with this kind of template kind of already created. I'm just going to pretty much duplicate that artboard and just start from scratch here. just so I have it on the side here and I can kind of pull some of those elements, you know, as we start working on this.
Right. And Jack Watson says he loves the whiteboard. There's definitely some love for the logos in the chat. It's really cool to see how people's ideas of like the branding could live on boxes. Razvan says that it would be cool to see the shot of the product on the front with the logo on the side, but he thinks that the logo looks great on the side of the package. So yeah, it's really cool to see how people respond to brand, right?
Cool, very cool. Yeah, I can. I mean, if everybody wants, I can show like you know what that would, how I can add that product to the front of the box.
Oh,
you know,
yeah. Maybe at the end,
if
there's some time for that, we could show a little demo on how that could work out. That'd be really cool.
I would like to see that. I have this this Illustrator plugin. It's called Live Surface, and you can create 3D boxes in it, mock them up, and even like spin them in different angles and stuff like that. It's a really cool product.
That's sweet. Yeah, we'd love to see that.
Yeah, so if at the end, if there's time, I'll be happy to do that.
Cool.
Cool. So I'm just gonna start like really quick, just putting together a quick kind of user flow on this. This would be like obviously the home page or the landing page, right? I'm just going to delete some of these for now.
And we'll let you know people's take on their process of like doing a user flow. Like, what's your recommended, or what's your go-to method for doing user flows? Like, is it something that you've never done in your practice, and maybe this is like completely new information for you? Because that's something that would be great, you know, to know how people are using it and want to learn, because this is the heart of what we're doing here, is all learning. So it'd be great to know.
Absolutely. All right, so this would be, you know, hyperice.com. And then, you know, we have, obviously you have things, and I'm not gonna color code, like give them a color just yet. I'm just going to, for now, just you know, put this together here. But obviously, you know, you're gonna want your search in here. And then you're gonna want, obviously, kind of a login. Again, I'm not gonna like spend so much time on these, but and then obviously kind of a yeah, I think that makes sense for now. It's kind of like top level, and then, you know, main nav, I'm thinking, you know, you obviously have your products. I didn't make this, well, let me just see if I can do that really quick here.
You can set the center and make it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been there. Sometimes when you're like using other people's mock-ups, they don't behave the way that you want them to.
Definitely don't.
And anybody in the chat has any questions for Ambert, just want to remind you, if you're just joining us, we're here with Ambert Rodriguez, and he is taking us through a journey for a e-commerce app and redesign of a brand that is it's geared towards athletes that are trying to increase their recovery time. So one of the things that Ambert does is you know, he works in the sports media and entertainment field as a designer, and I still can't believe you've been doing this for so long. Like, that's for me like the really cool part, because Ambert and I are very similar in age. I'm actually, I didn't discover design until like way later in life, so I'm just like man, I wish I would have hopped on the train earlier like you.
Yeah, no, I actually got into design because I went to a tech school for web design, actually, right after high school. And then I just figured out right away that I liked more of the visual design side of it, as opposed to like the coding side of it.
Right.
And that's kind of where, you know, I got started.
It's interesting too, because that was before UX, right? That was like
way before. Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't even a concept yet.
The tech school teacher, I remember, I don't even think that the teacher really understood it themselves. They just like read from the book. And so we were just in class, and it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But one thing I did want to show here is that from the plugin, what we were just talking about with Julian was that every time I'm typing in here, like if I write the word about, it's I misspelled it here, but if I write the word about here, it doesn't center it, right? So what I want to do here is I'm going to basically just kind of select this this group, and I'm going to select padding here, and then it's just going to automatically let me just make it centered. So anything I type in here now will fit into the cell itself now, into the grouping. So even if I type a really long word here, it all fits into here. So now I don't have to kind of play around with that.
Yeah, this is going to streamline your process much easier. So you're not just shifting everything. And folks in the chat would like to know like how you found design, and is design your your first endeavor into the world of technology, or did you go to school and do something different? I would love to know. We all have a different path.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got into design because I obviously, like I just said, I wanted to learn web design. I heard about it right after high school, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Let me get into this. And then I started doing the design because I had to design the website. I started enjoying that more than the coding side of it. And so that's what I started to do. My first kind of endeavor into business was, I have a friend that had a barbershop, and he needed a business card. So I was like, hey, I know Photoshop. Let me. I don't even believe Adobe had Adobe InDesign at this moment yet. This was like when Quark existed and stuff like this. If you know what I'm saying, it's a long time ago. And so I remember designing his business cards. They looked beautiful on screen. There was one, and then we sent it to print. I got them back. There was one issue. They looked beautiful on screen. I had like 4-point font.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's the first mistake, right?
Then when I sent to print, I got them back, and they were like this super tiny little font.
You can't read anything.
That's great. And then so that's just a funny little story. But then you obviously live and learn. My job from there, I worked at a print shop. I wanted to get into kind of design, and I obviously had no experience. So when I applied to work at a print shop, they said that the only position they had available was to work in the back with the presses and stuff, which is actually a blessing in disguise, right? So I understood kind of how presses worked, how to put the ink, how to put a press on the plate, how to put a plate on the press, how to cut film, how to do all of this. I understood how all of these Heidelberg machines, I used to cut paper, how all of this worked, right? So how ink worked on paper. So, and then I got moved into kind of pre-press, which was just, laying out, what they call gang runs, which was like, multiple different projects on one sheet so that they can cut them out. Awesome. And then that's how I got into a lot understanding kind of the more digital side of design and stuff like that. So
so you're seeing like
cool.
the kind of like what these tools are now made from are metaphors of the manual process that you have experience in, and that's something that I find interesting. I would love to know what people think about that too. Is how our tools kind of map these analog processes that folks like Ambert used to do when print design was the way that we designed. So Voodoo Val, also the homie Voodoo Val, she says that she loves how organized this is already. And for me, like that made me think, is just thinking like, as someone who is interested in design, like another thing that I wanted to bring in is like, I'm super OCD about things, right? Like I'm everything is organized, and I feel like that's why for me, like the UX side of design is very intriguing, is because a lot of it is communication, and the best way to communicate with your systems that you design is making them clear and making them easy to follow. So anybody that hops in your file knows exactly what to look for and what they're looking at. So
especially, yeah, you're working with the team and stuff like that. You
Yeah.
definitely, and even just coming back to your file, right? It just cuts down on a little bit of time of you knowing exactly why you did what you did and stuff like that.
Right.
I did want to just really quick, I don't know if there was a question, but just really quick talk through some of what I'm doing here and why I'm doing it. So obviously, you know, this is kind of the homepage. We obviously want to search. We want to log in for your, you know, your account. I think having like a liked would be interesting. Like, you know, if you see a product that you like, or maybe, I don't know if we want to call it like, but maybe more like wish list.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can, like, you know, just mark some of the products that you like, and then maybe send that wish list to somebody, or just have them there so you know that these are some of the products that you're looking at.
Right.
That's a good way, not just the UX thing, but I think this is also a good way of, if you're, you know, pitching this to a client or whatnot, you'll get more users to more click on add this to wish list and stuff like that.
Right.
What that does is that makes them now create an account on the website, even though they maybe didn't buy anything. And now what that does is that from a marketing perspective, now that brand can now take that email and obviously be able to reach out to you and stuff like that.
Build the loyalty, build the base, right? Yeah. And those types of tools also allow for the companies to see what products are working well, what are people engaging with as like their premier products. You know, sometimes you can find insights that way. That's a really good point.
Absolutely. Very good for e-commerce websites. And so, you know, I'm just showing this here, but so like products, I'm going to go down the line of like, you know, what products are going to be on the site and stuff like this. I think having an about page is to talk about maybe like the technology, you know, who's behind this company, who are maybe going back to that trustworthiness, right? You know, who are the doctors that they consult with to kind of build this technology on. One thing that I really do like about the Hyperice brand is that they work with a lot of professional kind of NBA players, a lot of pro athletes. Football players, you know, golf, you know, soccer or football, however you want to call it, depending on where you're from. A lot of pro athletes, and so like it'd be great for some of these pro athletes to maybe tell their stories, or, you know, or things like that, or even just everyday athletes, right? That use these products and stuff like that. I feel like that can be a really good marketing tool, also great for SEO and all of that too. So
and we see that a lot with like consumer goods, like that are like testimonials and things like that. But I think framing it as stories is a lot more like modern, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's testimonials. When you see that on a web page, it's like, that's like kind of old, you know. But like think of them as stories is a lot more engaging and human, right? And Ambert is here joining us. He says he makes it a point not to miss any live session. Love that.
Awesome.
Yeah, love that. So he's probably seen you before.
Yes, this is my second one. Yes.
This is Ambert's second time here, guys. So if you haven't seen him before, you can go back on his previous show. He was with Howard Pinsky as his host, the legend.
Awesome. Yes, and I did a fitness tracking app for that live stream. It was really cool.
That's cool. That's archived, so you guys can go find that. Yeah,
absolutely. Some of the cool things too that I like about this, you know, Hyperice, is that they have kind of these product categories. So one of their most popular product, what I would think is the Hypervolt. But under Hypervolt, you have like certain categories, right, or certain tier levels, right? You have the Hypervolt, you have the Hypervolt Plus, and then you have the Hypervolt Go, right? So in my mind, I think there's like a product landing page, right, that has all three, that maybe compares all three, you know, and then you can have the specific product description page of each one, right?
Right.
And so that's kind of what we'll put here. So we'll put this, you know, I don't know if I want to go through all of them here, but just the idea here.
the little snuck back in there on me.
So when I say PLP is like product landing page,
right.
And then I'll have, you know,
right.
And then we have the.
There is a question in the chat that is it might not be the right moment to address it, but it will come up. Is what suggestions do you have for converting an XD project to a live app or website?
Converting it into a live app or website.
Yeah. So by converting, I'm assuming like developing, right? So maybe like we can maybe talk about a little bit about handoff. Like that's something that will happen at the end of a project. We're pretty early in that project right now, right? We're thinking of the user flows that are kind of giving us a sense of structure of the page, kind of like a you know, hierarchy of what's our content, which is what Ambert's design, you know, walking us through now. But I'm happy to answer that while you kind of do your thing. So for what I like to tell folks that are trying to get into translating their designs from like an XD space to web, is there's a really great tool that you can use that is within this XD that's for developers, and so they can go in and they can get all of your designs and the different dimensions, the different redlining they call it, which is the specs of each component, and the way that designs are built is this is just a picture, right? Like, so what we make is, and this tool is a picture. What developers then do is they translate those into HTML, CSS, they style them, and then they push them to you know, to whatever product or web page they're designing. So there's a little bit more to it that, you know, there's not like a magic button you could just push, say like, make this a website. You know, there's back-end stuff there's requirements that you might have, but there's a lot of really cool aspects of the you sharing with developers, and that's something that maybe Amber can talk about in day 2 when we're looking at, like, you know, what's the next step with this design if we were to take it and get some sort of mock-up ready for a client. But in this environment on day 1, I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves with talking about like how to hand off right now. But it is a very, very important question. And in the process, that's something that we always keep in our minds is, can this even be made and within the budget we have? And I think that's, that might be a better question for Ambert in terms of, you know, for me asking Ambert a question regarding his practice is like, you know, when you are designing a page, like what are the requirements that you are setting yourself to make, you know, like for feasibility? Is there anything like that you kind of give yourself a sense of like how to ask the question to the client at least?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm understanding right, because I was
oh yeah, you were focused.
I think the question is like, you know, like what questions can we ask, you know, the client to make sure that, you know, that we're in budget for, you know, depending upon the you know, what we want to build out, right? Like if there's animated videos, if there's doing all of this stuff on the site. Yeah, you want to get into all of that, obviously, in kind of a discovery phase.
Right.
You know, obviously work with their budget, but then, you know, if you have ideas and you want to kind of push it a little bit further, you can, mock-ups are a good way of explaining. XD does a really good job at prototyping, where we can kind of prototype ideas and show them ideas, maybe say, this is how we can, you know, move what we'd like to create. And then again, kind of just, you know, one thing you also want to do is kind of set the boundaries, obviously, with the client too, and make sure that, you know, you're both on the same page of kind of what you're building and where you're going to, kind of where the North Star is. Right. And obviously kind of keep that communication open. I don't know if that was a specific question.
Exactly. And to add on to that, like, for the sense that like I like to approach when I'm designing a web page for say, is you have to more or less address the needs of the client, and like what Ambert's doing now is defining like the content of the page, which is for the employee for the client, this is their most like valuable part, is making sure all the content that they need is going to be designed by who they're contracting to make the website for them. So this, I feel like information architecture, like your low fidelity wireframes, I feel like for me are a very important tool, because they're fast, and to be able to get feedback from the folks you're designing for as soon as you can. Really, it's all about just getting that feedback. Is this right? Is this the right the way to go about this redesign? Are these the pages necessary? They're very crucial steps to set yourself up for success in the future.
Absolutely.
On any project. Just aligning with the client is in yourself. Even if you're designing your own portfolio, say with Adobe XD, you want to make sure that your page structure is nailed down, and you have a clear path throughout your page. Those are the important things for now, and developing it. Yeah, maybe we can talk about that more on day 2, because that is definitely the key of getting your design seen in the world, right? You have to publish it, you have to get it developed, but there's a little bit more that goes to that before, and that's what Ambert's going to walk us through the next the remainder of our show, and then tomorrow also. So we have a question here from S. Kanu Mili. Will devs design everything from scratch after UI designers shipped the prototype, or do they use same elements and fonts? I'll take this question. So you keep doing your thing. So yeah, that's a really great question. And Vuduval, I appreciate the vouch. I will answer that. So from my experience, what usually happens is your design that you make in your prototype, or how it's connected in your screens that you deliver, those are essentially just like pictures and guidelines for developers. Yeah. What the important part is once you package up all your assets, you have like, if you made a bunch of icons, you got to export every single one of those icons usually, or host them somewhere for them to get. And what they're able to do then is ingest all of that content that you've extracted from your designs, because your design is an abstract. It's just a picture. And so to make that live, you actually need to just give the assets to a developer, and they kind of put it together like Legos based on the pieces you give them. So that's what the components are. So when we talk about components in XD, what we're talking about is how you've created these pictures, essentially, these little snippets that have a specific function, like a drop down, right? How is the drop down styled? How is that field styled? How's your grid behaving? Because so there's a lot to it when you're designing it. So you have your pictures that you're designing, and like thumbnails or whatever, the buttons, all those are essentially just 2D images. But then there's also behavior, and that's a whole other thing that you have to design states. And that's why we love component states in XD, is because a button, it might seem like a simple thing, but it has a hover state if it's web, right? If it's mobile, there's no hover state yet. Right. So if there's a hover state, is there a focus state? Is there a press state? Is there a disabled state? So like a button actually can be 5 buttons. But when you think of a component, it kind of smashes it into one. But from a developer's standpoint, they treat that as 5 buttons. It just happens to be one button with 4 states or 5 states. So like, yeah, getting something designed for a prototype, they're really great. Like when you build a puzzle, you need a picture to reference. And that's essentially what sometimes the XD files are. Yeah. I mean, does that make sense? I think so.
Absolutely.
That's why the design systems are so important and so powerful, because they will drive your product for people that haven't used your product. Like you don't make it in a vacuum. You don't make a design system or a UI kit without, designing your layout first, because if you try that, then, you might get something that just looks weird. So you do design your components as you go, and then you set them, and then you tweak them, and then you design with them and see how they behave with with the rest of your visual patterns. But the goal of it is for them to be harmonious and then reusable, right?
Right. Absolutely. Reusable, and also, just think about how they translate or work with the kind of the brand kind of look and feel, right?
Yep.
You got to take all of that into consideration too. And absolutely. So I've quickly kind of put together a kind of rough user flow here. There's obviously some parts that are still missing here, like, support, like where do they go? Do they go, I can go really deep into this and like put a support page, and then what happens? Are there support categories? Do they get an email? We can go really kind of go deep into kind of how that user flow goes. The stories kind of branch. What happens there, right? We're considering them kind of blog posts, right? So, we would take that and kind of the stories page. Are there kind of different categories and stuff like that? An about page, are they talking about specific products, and maybe can those products then go directly to like a product landing page or a product description page, and so on and so forth. But what I've done here is just gone through and just, from the hyperice.com, you go to products, you have all of your product landing pages, your products inside of those kind of product categories. If I like a specific product, I add it to my cart, right? You go to your cart, your shipping, your payment and checkout process, your confirmation. We could even go even deep and further into this, like what in payment and checkout, what are we going to be offering? Are we going to be offering Apple Pay? Are we going to be offering PayPal? Like, we can go through all of that, and it's, if you're really kind of doing this for a client and you all kind of want to be on the same page, you want to kind of have all that information out there. You want to spend the time to do that, just because, you want to, you just want to make sure that all kind of bases are covered and stuff like that. So
yeah,
obviously, if there's any questions there, happy to kind of answer that. But this is just like a really quick,
yeah, it's a good roadmap for you, right? And this is like another thing, like this isn't just for the client to understand. This is also like, all right, this is a checklist for me to design, right?
Checklist for us to design, and also for even the dev team to kind of look at, right? To make sure that all pages are accounting for what we're designing, what we're coding out, what we're not coding out, what we're using a plugin for,
Right.
Maybe even like if there's a specific plugin for something here, we should also have this in here as like the tech stack of what product, of what technology we're going to be using, and stuff like that. So
yeah, because for a web developer, these are all URLs, right? They have to account for every single one of these as a URL, and that's
absolutely
important for them, for sure.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, in my mind, this is a huge part of kind of the design process. It's not just like making things look pretty, but it's also gathering information and making it, as easy to understand, in a method like this as well. Awesome. So that's kind of the kind of, I'll just rename this artboard here. User flow. And so that's a pretty straightforward user flow. I can get deeper into that, but for the sake of time, we'll just kind of keep moving forward here. And then after we go through user flow, the idea is really just to build out a user frame, as we have here on our steps. Nice. I always like to design with kind of these column layouts and stuff like that. You can see in my.
I was gonna comment. Like, you just like left it in there. I'm like, yo, I love it. Like, it's an element of your design. You can also tell, like, all right, he's using the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. 8-point pixel grid.
The best pixel grid. If anybody wants to know more about that,
I'm sure we can answer questions on there, but I've had people ask why. Obviously, it scales down from different screen sizes proportionately. Another big reason why you should do it is because Google and Apple, you know, they recommend it, right? So like if you're looking at Google's design system, it's all based on a 8-point pixel grid. So yeah, so you know, I would just say, and it just makes things easier too, right? So if you're moving, you know, if you're from a visual perspective, if you want to, you know, if you have a picture and you have your text, you know, how many, you know, how much pixel height should I change that or do it? You know, it's obviously easier just to think of it as 8-point, you know, as in variables of 8. And that's it. And it's also easier for the dev team and stuff like that to just work with that.
I'm feeling you. Like for me, like I don't use any odd numbers in anything I design. Like because I have to do math on that.
Right,
like,
right.
That's why I'm a designer. I don't know math. So there's a request or an ask of like how do you do these columns? Like how do you get them? Like how do you get them in your design?
Oh, cool. Yeah, great question. So in your this is actually just a repeat grid here that I put in here, just for a design perspective. But if I wanted to go to the grid, so you would select the artboard itself, and then go into grid, turn on a grid, and here's where you would just change this, right? So you would change columns, change the gutter width, the column width, and all of that depending upon your you know, your screen itself, the artboard that you're working on. I don't know if that answers that question.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, again, so you can't just do it from outside here. You would select, because you would select the artboard itself, because maybe some people want different grids for different artboards. And obviously, if you're working, you know, on a project that's, you know, you're working on for desktop and mobile view, you would want different kind of grids. So yeah, you can just do it, you know, per artboard.
There you go.
Awesome. So I'll just go into a little bit of the wireframing. I'm just gonna probably wireframe a little bit of the, you know, like the main pages, maybe a home page, and maybe like a checkout or a product or something like this.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, it's any questions, feel free to give me a shout.
Yeah. So if you're just joining us, we are here with Ambert Rodriguez. He is a designer at Wheelhouse.io, and this isn't his first time on the show, so he's definitely used to the chat. So feel free to ask any questions you have. Working on a e-commerce rebranding for Hyperice and seeing how the web experience can be enhanced. I think this is one of the cool things about this platform, is it just allows designers to just kind of create things that they wanted to do for a long time and haven't had the bandwidth in their normal day, and just like, hey, let's just do it on a live session. And that's how I like to work. I mean, I'm motivated by a deadline. I don't know about you. that's my motivation.
Constraints. Yes.
I love it.
I believe there is no creativity without constraints in my mind.
I agree. I think you know the blue sky is great, but you know, you gotta come to earth sometime.
Absolutely. Even like when the client is like, yeah, there's no specific timeline. It's like, no, I got to give myself a timeline, because there has to be some kind of constraints. So
yes, for
absolutely.
Sure. And there's a question from Juiced, who's wants to know if you know, do you ever share source files, and will you share source files you know, to the public? I mean, for me, like I do, if I'm, you know, if I'm proud of it.
I'd have to rename all the layers correctly.
Yeah,
and all of that. Yes.
Because sometimes a work in progress, you know, like that's still work. But you know, I think Juiced, if you're interested in understanding how some of these are structured and broken down, there's a bunch of really good UI kits out there, and that just takes it for like a Google search for you, Adobe XD UI kits. And if you did that, people put together a lot of really like almost realistic projects that you could just grab. And you know, it has all the different layers people are working with, or different components that they're using to animate. I know that if you go to letsxd.com, that's Howard Pinsky's
I think
site.
it forwards now to Adobe's website now.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
That's another really great resource for you, because you know, and that's for me. I'm just going to talk while Ambert designs some of this stuff here. Is thinking of like ways to like reverse engineer. Uh, is it's a really it's a really good idea to kind of take existing designs and just see how people are putting them together. And for
Absolutely.
us, where I get my UI kits, I just do Google search, uh, Google search or Bing search, whatever search platform you're using, uh, UI kit for Adobe XD. And the URL for Howard Pinsky's site is letsxd.com. And that's another one that, the adobe.com products XD learn more. There you go. It's on the main page now. So that's a really good resource for you. Just leverage some of the designs that are out there in the wild. Another good thing that I like to tell people that are trying to learn how to design is sometimes just like look at a page you really like and just copy it. And you know, you don't have to publish it, or it's just practice. Like take a website that you think is designed well, or you hear has, you know, been revered or has been winning awards, or if it's an app you really think works well, uh, screenshot everything that you like about it and remake it. Like
Absolutely.
if you're beginning out, like there's no shame in taking some patterns and designs that already look great and work, and kind of just reskinning them, maybe, or maybe not, maybe just translating them, and you learn the tool as you go. So that's what UI kits are really good for. Is they're a good starting ground to kind of get you up and running on a project. But you know that they don't always map to you know, the kind of design that you're trying to make for, you know, for whatever, for, you know, depending on the project you're on or working on, it might not map to the UI kit you find, but there's overlap in patterns and stuff like that. So yeah, I really do like that question, because it does make me happy to know people are like thinking of like, how are your designs structured. And that's it takes practice and time, but I think using the kits is a really good idea. Yeah, awards, that's a good one. um, Design inspiration, obviously Behance, uh, you know, we can't forget Dribble. They're all, Pinterest is even a good place for design inspiration. But I also think looking at the apps that are in your phone, or on your, that you use like on a daily, are really good. It's just really cool to see, uh, you know, how you can translate, like, what if the look of Airbnb was actually for dog food? I don't know. Like you could make a project like that. And that's also urging people to really take part in the creative challenge. And that's, if you're looking at your chat window right now, if you go to the top, register for the creative challenge, I really highly recommend taking part in the creative challenge. Right now it's being conducted by none other than Jesse Showalter, who is just a design star. He just does some really great work. And we're lucky to have him be the host of the challenge, because he really does some amazing work on the show. So take part in the challenge. It really does teach you, because that community as well prepares a lot of really great work together that you can kind of just get inspired by. And also he shares kits sometimes. I've actually hosted a creative challenge, and it was amazing to be able to like see how people could grow over time in such a short amount of time. 2 weeks, and you're seeing people put together some really stellar designs. So I would encourage the creative challenge up and down for any new designer. It's just a really great place. Have you ever taken one of those challenges, Ambert? Have you ever had a chance?
I have not actually, like taken them, the ones that are on the Discord or
Yeah,
Behance.
yeah,
No, I have not. But what you did say was correct though. Like taking a look at, like what we're doing now, right? So like this is exactly kind of what you're saying. A brand that you like, and just kind of rebrand it, or redesign it, or just looking at a current website that you really like and trying to redesign it, come almost as kind of reverse um, idea. You know,
mhm,
that way, by doing that, you can kind of you know, refine your design skills or like understand how they specifically did something. Absolutely. I think I'm a big proponent for that kind of stuff. Always fine tuning and always sharpening your skills is always a plus. I mean, especially when new technology comes out, right? I think it's important to always kind of be up on the game when it comes to all of that stuff. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's something that, like, for me, when I was starting out, I was on a similar track as Ambert. Like, I was designing, I was in a real estate company designing websites for real estate stuff, and depending on where you are, like, I was just looking at other companies that did the same thing, and it's what you're where you find your inspiration. It can come from anywhere, really. So I think it's also making sure that you're finding patterns that work for what it is that you're designing. So, like, we're in an e-commerce space, marketing space with Ambert right now. So in a website fashion, right? So there's also different conventions for like software design. So that's a little harder sometimes to, if you're designing some piece of software, it's harder to find inspiration from just like any old place, because those patterns are kind of a little bit more established in a UI pattern. But we're in the web world right now. So there's so many designs out there that you can get inspiration from, and so many different ways to structure your website. So
absolutely. Yeah, and to just jump kind of into what I'm doing here. So I've kind of just started to put here. I mean, I can start naming some of these kind of top nav items here, right, to like what what we've kind of gone through with this user flow. It's like products, about, stories, and then like support. And just going back to this also now then reminds me that that I should probably have in here, search, right? I should probably have in here the account or login, or however we want to do it, but like those, that just helps you kind of as a reminder, right, into kind of what you're specifically doing here. And what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of putting these here to where they would kind of normally be found, right? But when we go into the design, we'll play around with that, right? It won't necessarily maybe mean that the account is going to be here. Maybe it's going to be somewhere else or something like that. We'll figure that out as we're starting to design. But the idea is to kind of just put all of this information here and then just start moving forward from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, and obviously that this isn't like the real world speed and process of designing a website, right? So just to keep in mind, folks, is this is a design challenge that is kind of cutting corners on some of the process that you'd like, because at this point you'd have like a whole information architecture handed,
absolutely,
that you've revised many times with your client
before I even went to the wireframes. Absolutely.
Before you touched your design tool, before you touched XD, yeah,
right.
which is a really cool thing.
Yeah, it's 4 o'clock now. Should I just kind of like get into designing this a little bit, or like what are your thoughts, Julian?
I mean, I think yeah, it's always good if you wanted to like set the basis with your wireframe. But if you feel like your design is ready to go, I support high fidelity.
I mean, we have until like what, 4:45 or so.
Yeah. So if you wanted to push forward and say like this is kind of like the structure that you'd want to go with.
Yeah. Let me just kind of finish this homepage maybe a little bit, and then I'll jump right into designs as opposed to like doing some other ones.
Juice says yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's jump into hi-fi. Yeah, man, this is awesome. Today we got a really good a good group of people on the chat. Just we would like to know if you had any more questions regarding process. I know that in this really short window, going over all processes is almost impossible. So it would be great to if you have any questions for Ambert regarding his process, and we obviously are happy to go over that if you have questions.
Absolutely. I just wanted to also show something here really quick. So like, I just have this group here. Let's say this is going to be like a featured product, right? A title product or whatever. I can just take this here and then create a repeat grid. Say I wanted to make this some kind of carousel or
Mhm.
you know different products like this. I can just kind of quickly do this. Open this up here, and maybe even like create this kind of I think this would be pretty cool to kind of see the scroll groups in here, and
Yeah.
if and kind of show like the client like maybe this is what it would look like if we're creating these kind of sliders here, so that it gives the user will see that there is more products here and they'd want to click through the arrow.
Yeah.
Totally. And if you wanted to kind of prototype this and see what this would look like, obviously this would it's scrolling right through the product, so which is cool.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite prototyping features of XD.
Oh, I love that's the greatest thing about XD is like how fast it is to prototype with like good fidelity is unmatched.
Absolutely.
And that's something that like for me that I like to advocate for is low fidelity, but with like some sort of high fidelity demonstration. So like it's a good like kind of high-low balance when you're showing very low fidelity designs, but you're kind of validating the behavior of some of these components in like kind of hi-fi animations.
Yeah,
like,
I've designed in the past where I'd have to literally create different artboards to kind of show what that would look like. And like, even just trying to explain to a client that that is maybe not that tech savvy, right? That where they're trying to figure out, why is this cropped here? Like, I don't understand why you're cutting off a picture here. And then being able to send them a link and where they can interact with it as if it was almost a live site, right? Where they can, oh, I see this, because it's cropped off there. I am as a user wanting to scroll, right? So I know that there is a lot more products here. So so like, back in the day, sending them a flat image of like a cropped image, they wouldn't understand. It'd be hard to kind of explain that. And so this is
because that's the thing. Like, websites are by inherently interactive, and so if you just kind of give them a bunch of flat screens that like are like literally five artboards with this one difference, it communicates it so much faster now, and it's such a beautiful idea. I'm glad we're here today and in this time with these tools. I admire your background to have to struggle through some of the difference in tools that you had to learn along the way.
I almost wish some of these tools existed back then.
Right, it's such a crazy time. We've seen a lot of evolution in the way that designers are able to design. It's really has come a long way, and just to kind of step back and appreciate that is really an important thing to do.
Absolutely. All right, so I just quickly kind of showed what I would do as a wireframe, right? This isn't necessarily where it will end up, but the idea is there that you can do all of this kind of in XD, right? So it's super simple. Duplicate artboards, create these kind of lo-fi prototypes that you would then kind of take this, you would click share, create a link, and share that with your client so that they can maybe just approve it or whatnot. So yeah, that's that. You can do all of that, right through XD, and in the same file, you can also even design, right? Even go into your high def design. So I just if you want to know what I just did, is on a Mac, Command Shift apostrophe, and I just turned on my grids, right? Just so I like to kind of see the grid, so then I can start working on it. As I'm designing here. So I'm just going to start getting into designing kind of this this homepage.
Nice. Yeah, I'm going to
forward here.
I'll answer some questions in the chat and throw some your way if there's a second. So
awesome.
So folks that are just joining us, we are here with Ambert Rodriguez. He's a designer at Wheelhouse.io is the website if you want to go take a look at some of his work. He has his second time on the show. So just to kind of know that there is a show in the archives if you want to go hunt for that. He is designing a e-commerce site for a brand that he admires and is really kind of something that he would use himself. Or do you use? You have this device as well.
I do have it, yes.
Yeah. So he's an advocate. He's loving this product and kind of giving it some more a different life. That's what we're doing here today. And there's some questions around how do you get your padding around your websites, like what's your science behind that, and you're showing it. Like this is the grid right here, like the 16.8 the 8 pixel grid, right? And so anything divisible by 8 so 8
Correct.
pixels, 16 pixel spacing.
Yeah, and what I did here also is this is just an artboard of 1440, and then obviously because the website you can go whatever height, right? I kind of like working on 1440. A lot of people like, some people like to work on something a little bit smaller. It really depends on kind of what you prefer.
Yeah, designing for the right screen size, right?
Is the right size. Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes people like to design on the big screen, like to start too, which personally I'm in the same boat as Ambert. I like to start at a 1440 by 900 for the fixed size, and then obviously it has a below the fold. But yeah, and then using the 16 point pixel grid or 8 point pixel grid is for me also the preferred. And this is how you get your spacing. So your borders around the edges, it could, you set that in advance. So it's
right.
Either going to be 16, 36 margin, depending on your aesthetic. It can go either one of those. And then yeah, your fonts are also going to be informed by that. And this is horizontal spacing, but also vertical spacing. So when we're getting into the sentence in paragraphs, I'm sure we'll see the grid get used in that way too. So yeah, that's a really great question. So Juiced, if you wanted to do a little bit more looking, just kind of Google 8 point pixel grid, and you'll get some really good results and like a good how-to on how to get that system in play into your workflow. I recommend
Absolutely.
it. I highly do.
So I just copied and pasted the logo that I created from Illustrator. I brought it into the design here, into the artboard. I'm going to rename this, I guess, main logo. I put like this kind of main nav bar. I usually like to, depends, on the logo itself, but I put this at a height of 60, and obviously 1440 for the width. This is kind of where I'm going to house like all the main navigation. I don't know if I'm gonna want like 2 navs, but we'll play around with that. So and now I'm just gonna start stylizing kind of the look and feel of what we have created here, or what we're going to create. I am a big fan of Helvetica now. I don't know if you've, it's kind of like the updated Helvetica.
So it's more new than new.
More new than new. Yes, it's more now. It's more now than new.
More
yes.
now than new. Nice. No, actually, I didn't even know that it got updated. So yeah, this is very, very current information for me too. So folks out there looking for fonts, this is a new one on the market.
I like it because it has it has a display font, typeface. It also has a text typeface, which is obviously good for body copy.
Yeah.
Display, good for H1s and all of this. And it also has a digital version as well that that works for small devices and stuff like that, which is cool.
Yeah, Helvetica is classic. Like it's one of the OGs, right? You can't go wrong.
Absolutely. I like to give it a little bit of kind of kerning when they're smaller, just especially if it's like a bold typeface, so it doesn't feel like it's like blotted or anything. And that's like a print word that I just used there.
You're bringing the print language into the digital space. I love it.
And these are the same. Yeah, so products, about, stories, and support, right? So products, stories. Support would be like, I guess, yeah, support could be a good main nav. For icons, what do you like to use, Julian? I like to use Font Awesome,
Font Awesome.
which is
Font Awesome is a good reference for me. And this is another, like, when you get icons like for like a client, like sometimes they expect them to be kind of custom built, right? But like when we're just doing like mockups and stuff like this, like, yeah, Font Awesome has some really great stuff.
Absolutely.
And if you like, so I actually really like designing like icons. It's something that like not everybody loves, and they take time, right? Like it's not a you know, finding metaphor is one thing, but actually then designing them on a grid and designing icons in each one like by themselves, it takes time.
Yeah.
So that's why Font Awesome or even Font Awesome, like other like there's plugins too on XD.
Yeah, there are. I use this one plugin called
Icons
for Design, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and there's like, so there are kits out there for people to use. You can also go to the Noun project for inspiration, right? There's tons of resources for icons.
Yes, yeah. I forgot about the Noun project. That's been
yeah, it's a good one, right? And sometimes it's really good just to think of like, what's the picture for this word?
Yes, exactly.
You know? And it's like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense, but sometimes it doesn't.
That's a good point, actually. So
search. You got yours from Font Awesome, right?
Yeah. So it's pretty simple. So basically, if I want, it's a font, right? So if I want a heart here, I could just type in heart and it makes the icon there. If I want it to be like, you know, light, you can go super light. If you want it to be solid, you can go solid, right? Which helps for like if I wanted to like a hover or kind of these different instances. So pretty simple.
So people are gonna definitely ask where you got this, and so if you want to tell them like real quick on a URL, or you could show.
Yeah, I think it's just fontawesome.com.
There you go.
I believe. Yeah.
And that's
that's
a really good one.
Yeah.
Because you get to
even have like a cheat
right?
sheet. Yeah. You could just buy it, install it. So like the shopping bag, I'm just gonna put shopping bag. There we go. I have my little shopping bag, right? Obviously regular, so you can just choose between the, you know, the weight. Just for design purposes here, I did so the font I have it at 16 points, but the icon designs themselves I have them at 18, just a little bit bigger, because if I kept them at 16, it just felt a little smaller, right? And so I like the idea of maybe just notching them up just a tad bit, so that their weight can kind of feel comparable to everything else. One thing, so another reason why I also kind of put this block back here is to help with kind of keeping things all centered. So there we go with that. You know, one thing that I will do here is with these columns, I like to leave a little bit of space on the left and the right, so that so that the content will break the space a little bit too. I like to kind of have that visual where not everything's kind of structured and stuff like that. So, so maybe like a hero image will go all the way to the left and stuff like that. So
give you a little bit more like just kind of just space to kind of play with.
Correct. And then here, I'm gonna obviously work on this kind of pixel grid of, I'm gonna put these at 24 pixels apart. I might want to put them a little bit more. We'll see what that looks like. Another way of doing this too is obviously you can kind of group these and then create these stacks, right? And you can make the the separation here. If I want another cool thing here too is like if I wanted to make these spread them out a little bit more, I can actually just put +8, and then I don't know if you saw that, but right on here it made it 32. Like if I didn't know like what another 8 was.
Hey, you never know. Like I'm telling you, like, that's one of the cool things about all these fields on like the height, the width. You can use math. So like if you wanted to like divide it by 2 or multiply it by 8 or add 8, you can do that right in each field.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I want to actually give a shout out to Voodoo Val in the chat, who's just kind of sharing all the links that we've been mentioning, and
awesome.
just really helping out with the communication. You are appreciated. So if you are just joining us, we're here with Ambert Rodriguez with Wheelhouse.io, and he is walking us through his process, kind of giving us a rundown on some of the best practices that he likes to take when designing a website like this, which is an e-commerce driven website for a brand that he's also designed a new look and feel for, called Hyperice, which is in the performance athletic space. I feel like this is one of those tools that, like, if you are any sort of kind of like training runner, or if you had anything wrong with your sciatic ever, right? Yeah. Like if you know with the word sciatic where that is, then you probably want one of these, right? Because I feel like that's one of the places that gets like affected the most for runners and long distance endurers, is making your legs feel better and recovering faster.
One of the things that I also did here was that I grouped these kind of main navs, and I put it into a kind of stack here. And one of the cool things about that is obviously, if let's say I don't want about to be, the next one after products, I can just kind of move these here and it still keeps the 32 pixels apart. Or I want to remove support over to the, to the left. You can do all of that right through here. And let's say I had this main nav as a component, it would, and multiple artboards, it would obviously do that through all the different artboards.
Yep. Love that.
That's one of the things that when XD introduced that, I think it was like last year or something like that, I was super excited about it.
Yeah, no, they're changing the game, like these like stacks. I mean, when they first came out with repeat grid, my mind was blown. Like, just
repeat grid is the best. Yeah, absolutely.
But then like auto animate and all this stuff, I'm sure hopefully we'll be able to see some of that. But like, correct. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the auto animate feature, and stacks too. I love stacks.
Absolutely. So what I am going to do here is I'm going to just start to create like some of my kind of character styles and stuff like this. I think this is great for like a main nav. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select these and then make them all the same character style, so that if I wanted to change this specifically. So for example, I need to put account or login, right? So I have this text here now. It just came in as like a random typeface. Obviously I want it 32 pixels apart from this. So now I can just, tap on this or click on this, and now it's giving me the exact same character style as this. So if I wanted to kind of in the future make an edit to, let's say I wanted all of the, the main nav text to be a different color, right? I can do that now, and you can see they're all red or whatever.
Right.
But I'm not gonna go straight like rich black. I like kind of keeping it a little bit off black, just so it's this feels a little bit softer. Let's just take a look at that real quick. Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. If you're ever designing anything that has black in it, especially like typefaces, I always go a little bit off black too. It just makes it a little bit more dynamic than just all black.
Yeah. All right, cool. So this feels good. It feels like a good main nav. I think as opposed to kind of like, you'll see some websites, with some websites with like, a nav like this or something like that, where this other information is at the top or something like that. I feel like there isn't that much, navigation here. So it'd be good to just kind of keep it like this. My account, I don't know if I necessarily need these to be a lighter gray, because sometimes you'll see some sites that want like account or something like that smaller, so that the main navigation stands out a little bit more. But I think what I've done here is I've separated the main nav, and it already feels a little bit more important maybe than the stuff on the right. But what I've also done here is I feel like there is a balance here, right? You have the logo, you have the main nav in the middle, and then you have kind of more information on the right. So it feels balanced out.
Right.
Cool. I'm going to now just take this. I'm going to kind of group this, call it main nav. Awesome. And then, what sometimes you see a lot of like e-commerce websites with like a little kind of alert bars or bars that just kind of have like a special or something like that. Maybe they're going to want that. Maybe they won't always need it, but maybe they're going to want it. So I'm going to design it and put it in there and kind of, show what it would look like if they needed one. So we'll put that in here as well. And what that does also is that gives me another kind of character style that I would need to build anyway, which is like, a body copy or something like this, right? Because right now I have like main navs, and I'm going to start already creating or defining my character styles, because body copy would be what would be in there as text. So, awesome. So let's see. For this brand, we don't necessarily I don't think it needs like a defining color.
Right.
I think like the off blacks, I think would be good.
Right. Yeah, it seems like the packaging,
grays.
the packaging mock-up is kind of carrying this like just black and white minimalistic theme.
Yeah.
Which I think works works well.
Absolutely. Yeah, and let the product kind of shine, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was on font awesome. That's a really good font to have though for people that are looking for quick icons. I always forget about that too. It's such a really good tool for that.
Absolutely.
So if anybody has any questions for Ambert, we're going to be here for another roughly 30 minutes. Any advice that you want to give us? If you're an expert designer out there too, we'd take it. Never too experienced to still learn from other people out there. So Juiced is not a trained designer, or at least formally trained in XD, but playing around with the tools, that's how you learn. That's why taking those challenges is such a good way, because it's kind of forcing you to use the features in a different way. And there are always new features in the challenges. So that's the good thing about the creative challenges, is kind of just learning new ways of doing, improving your workflow. Oh yeah, and he's designing. So what Ambert's designing right now is like kind of like what they call like cookies bar, or your product highlight bar, or there's always going to be some sort of promotion with e-commerce sites, or any sort of any sort of comm site, and that's, for me, like that's something that I always forget. It's like you design the whole experience and they're like, wait, but we need a message about COVID, and you need to have that COVID messaging or some sort of messaging. And it's either on the bottom or the top, depending on the type of tool, right? Because if it's e-commerce,
I was gonna ask, like, where do you guys normally see it?
Yeah.
Sometimes you see it at the top. Sometimes, I almost feel like when it's at the top and you have like let me just throw this here really quick. and you have like content. Just see what, so you guys see what I'm talking about. And you have, and you know, obviously like a fixed position here. I'll press play here, and then like I'm scrolling. I feel like the main nav then takes up a lot of space, right? Yeah. So what I like to do sometimes is just switch them out, right? So like this.
Yeah.
Now this no longer needs to be fixed anymore. And then when you're kind of scrolling through, and it just goes away, right? You don't need to see it anymore because you've already kind of passed that.
Yeah, and then sometimes they have the option to close them, right? Which,
right,
you know, that's another level of control sometimes you give your customers, but if it goes away when you scroll, then there's no need for that. Yeah, so
absolutely.
Plenty of ways to approach those, but there's little things that are asks that you have to, you know, make that state. And that's kind of the rule of the land when you're designing a website.
And as we're doing this, I'm going to just start building my kind of colors, components and libraries here, so that, you know, obviously if I want to change, you know, the colors from this kind of off black 262626, I can just do it here and it will change it all throughout, the same as this like light gray that I'm using here. So for example, if I wanted to, you know, create a square here, you know, I can just double click on that, take this away, and it already has kind of, you know, what the color specifically here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, so kind of at least, you know, what you would see in like e-commerce websites, like some kind of large hero graphic or something like this.
Yeah.
I think for, you know, and I know we kind of put it together here like that on the wireframe. I think what I would do for this is like, I want to give them, the client, two options, right? I would want to create some kind of quick kind of advertisement space at the top, where they can turn that off and on, secondary to, or more primary to this, right? Mm-hmm. You know, maybe there's like a sale going on or something like this. So, you know, let's just kind of throw this here. I'm giving it, again, I'm giving this 16 points, which is, you know, visible by 8 to this space here. It kind of feels good, you know, as you're looking at it. I like the idea of not necessarily, you know, going all the way to bleeding to the ends, giving it a little bit of breathing room. I am going to move this to the top so that when we do play this, there, it sticks to the top. All right, perfect. Nice. So above the fold, right? So when you're looking at this kind of, this is what's called the viewport height. I have it at 900 right now, which would be what you would kind of, you know, see at different screens. So I want to kind of see what you know, as much as information I can above the viewport, but not cram it, right? I want to kind of give it a, you know, a little bit of breathing room also. So I'm going to create like a quick little ad here, and then maybe some kind of cool graphic below this that, you know, that can kind of, you know, that tells a little, it personalizes the website a little bit, and also kind of tells a story of who they are. So, but I'm going to put like an ad here or a design of some of their products, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and that's something that you know, that I always have to remember too, is, you know, making sure the real estate is all accounted for, because, you know, there's also then what kind of browser you're using, and, you know, like the headers of Chrome or of Safari. You kind of also have to like think of like, okay, there's also that fold, right? There's that kind of content that sometimes needs to be accounted for as well. And sometimes people have a lot of things open, like there's different folder views, there's different you know, tools exposed on their web browser. So, you know, you want to get as much information in there as you can without getting it cut off. Absolutely. And that's a very e-commerce thing, right? Like when you think about when you hear the below the fold, it's usually because like, all right, we're trying to sell some products here, and we need to maximize value. for what people see.
Speaking of a print term, that's actually comes from print. So
Right, that's totally like the folding your headline paper, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and it's interesting how like even that term is now becoming kind of antiquated in the world of design now too, because now we have these pages that are just one page, right? Like, and it's just like there's no other pages aside from this big scrolling page, and like, does it really matter what's below the fold because everyone scrolls anyways?
Right.
There's a lot of new conversations about that, and I love it. I love the how technology has evolved our ways of using the tools and the mediums that we have. Like, we don't use newspapers. We don't use websites the way we use newspapers. Like, we don't go on a train with our computer and bust out like a laptop on our lap. Not everybody does. There's people that do that. I'm not one of those people, but there are people. But we're adapting to the new terrain and where these things are used. So it's really cool. Oh, so we got a good question. Vudaval is also just keeping everything organized in the chat for us. So I have a question for you, Ambert.
Oh, nice.
What inspires you to work, and what inspires your work?
I'm always, I think what inspires me to work, what inspires me to work is obviously, my family.
Yeah. What
inspires my work? I would say like, just brands that tell a consistent, good story through everything that they kind of put together. I think I'm always amazed at like brands that have been able to kind of live, the test of time, right? That have been able to kind of evolve and stuff like that. I think for me, that's one thing that I really like. And clean design, obviously, design that works, that makes sense. I think is pretty. That's kind of what inspires me. Brands that stand for something, I think, is also something that I really like. For example, one of my favorite brands, cycling brands, is this brand called Rafa, right? They make cycling clothes, and they're all about this kind of explorer mentality of like, not folding, never giving up, kind of a thing, and that kind of resonates with me. When you were looking at like the ideas of brands, I don't know if you guys, I want you guys to go just kind of research this, but what are called brand archetypes, right? Mm-hmm. And there's I think there's like 12 buckets, and within those buckets there's kind of sub brand archetypes, and every kind of brand falls into some kind of archetype. Mm-hmm. And basically what that is like a basic kind of human desire of like connecting with something. So there's and like what like really good brand marketing teams have done, brand teams have done, is they've understand the archetypes that their users or their customers connect to, and they've been able to build their whole kind of marketing around that, right? So that's kind of a good kind of marketing or brand strategy tip. There is like, understand brand archetypes, try to find out who which one you are, and build kind of your communications and your marketing around that.
Yeah, that's a great way of approaching it. And for me, I think that kind of reminded me of like what inspires me to design, and what inspires my design is storytelling. Because like when it comes down to who we are as humans, is we're a narrative species. Like everything that we do is centered around a story, whether we know it or not, like whether it's your religion, whether it's your whatever, we do these things that, like, the design wise, like we design around stories. And I think that's at the heart of everything, any brief I get from my client. So just folks that might not have like client experience, or designing for somebody that's not yourself, essentially, is you're given user stories sometimes, and you have to convert those user stories into a product. Because in my day to day as a designer, like I design products, and less websites, less e-commerce stuff. Admittedly so. More software, more types of those types of experiences that have these people that are trying to do something in some sort of system, and it is your job to make that experience as easy, as accessible, as intuitive as possible. And that is part of that company's story of how they in how their tool is used, or how their site is experienced. So yeah, that's for me. Like I really do think that the stories that we learn from, they're they're very, very diverse. um they're they're everywhere. So that's for me, like the biggest part is user stories and just storytelling in general. And are there any like designers or creatives or people that inspire you, or people that kind of you look to for inspiration, or just kind of like admire and just say like, man, like that's pretty awesome? It's hard to on the spot think of people.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe even not thinking about design, maybe thinking about like art, or creatives in general that inspire you, or
Yeah, there's
athletes.
athletes, a lot of them. But like obviously, you have like your LeBrons and you have your Michael Jordans and all of this. Like just the idea of the regiment, or like the structure that they put their body through, their mind through, to just excel or try to be the best that they can be every single day.
Yeah,
um Sometimes you come to work and it's like, if you have an off day, you have an off day. But if you have an off day as an athlete, you could lose a championship, you know what I mean? So like,
right.
just that kind of pressure. Also, even like, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but like the abstract show
Oh
on
yeah,
Netflix, which is
yeah,
really good. That any one of those, like you can find inspiration on any of that, from set
right.
design.
I
You can find inspiration from set design and bring that into kind of digital design, from sneaker design. I think that was season one, um, to all of that. So
I totally agree. And I think for me, like it's less about like designers that I follow, because I have friends that are really great designers, and obviously like we all kind of inspire each other. But yeah, I think creatives in the world, like you know um, thinking about architects is actually like
yeah,
a really interesting thing to think about, because I studied interaction design. I went back to college and actually studied it. And if just thinking about interaction design, it's a branch off of industrial design, and industrial design is a branch off of architecture. And so like in a sense, like if I've actually seen a lot of architects make the transition into product design, because a lot of the processes are similar. And for me, like that's where I like to look, is like look at architecture as an inspiration for your design, because these houses and businesses that we step through, like the UX is all considered. You know, it's all there. There's also like accessibility built into architecture, which is great. Like how long is how much width is a hallway? All these door entrances, and there's kind of a standard to them. Um, I really do appreciate architecture, because it does inform a lot of like use of like humans occupying this space. Um, Michael Jordan will ever hold a place in Voodoo's heart. Mine too. I actually lived in Chicago for 4 years, and he wasn't there at that time, but definitely his legend is still alive. So yeah, and there's actually a question around viewport heights. Um, how to plan my layout regarding what will be seen above the fold on 900 or 678, etc. So yeah, that is a difficult thing to answer, and I think that's because what we were talking about, sometimes the type of browsers people are using are a little different. So you have to kind of just like use um, your kind of your best guesstimate at a threshold that you're willing to live with. Like sometimes you might have a little bit get cut off by certain browsers. Not all browsers are created equal. And that's something that you'll definitely learn. Like there's constraints around Firefox versus Google Chrome versus Safari. So I would say a good basis is kind of think about, instead of a viewport of 900, maybe even decrease it to like 700. And if you can get all your key assets and key elements above a 700, even better, because you have to compensate for the loss of the browser as well. So there's no like magic bullet for how to kind of diagnose like what's below the fold, but you generally want to use at least 700 pixels. And a lot of times what's really great about your developer tools is, or developers that have experience, is they can then set kind of viewport like thresholds for you. That's like, using more responsive design kind of behaviors. So like maybe if someone's on a smaller display, the image shrinks a little bit, so that way everything does fit. Yeah, there's tricks that developers can implement to help potentially with that, but it is kind of going to be defined by you, the designer. Like what is the breakpoint? Which we might not have time today to get into breakpoints, but maybe that could be a topic for tomorrow. Yeah, so yeah,
Awesome.
what is your design process? It's a pretty broad question, but we're kind of seeing some of it.
Yeah, we're going through it some of it now.
Some
Absolutely.
of it now, and I like how you kind of toggle on and off your grid just to kind of check. You're like, where am I
Yeah.
at right here?
I'm also just, and I'm not like necessarily like going through everything here specifically, but like for example, I just created a button, and I'm now creating a component out of it. I think so I can now use this button throughout the rest of the site, and I want to create like maybe just like a quick hover state of what that would look like. I'm gonna just start making some like little bit of like prototype or edits here. Maybe I want to go a little bit light gray when I hover.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just gonna quickly kind of view this. Also, I just want to see what it looks like, if it's looking pretty good. Yeah, I think that looks good. Yeah, I think this is starting to feel like an e-commerce website. We have kind of a hero product here, kind of calling, front and center, which is probably what most people are coming to the site for. Maybe, if there's another, maybe, from kind of a dev perspective, maybe what we can do is like make this section at the top, kind of this idea of where it's, if I viewed another product, right, and then I came back the next day, maybe it's right there, right? You know what I mean? Where it has
Right.
kind of these kind of conditional,
Right.
features to it, which would be kind of interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the future of e-commerce right there, right? Kind of integrating some of that, like your behaviors of past visits, right?
Absolutely. So, and then one thing I'd like to do here is kind of create something, and we're coming in a little bit. Do I have a little time to kind of jump into designing something here?
Yeah, we have some time left. Yeah, you have like
Awesome.
I would say about like 8 minutes left.
All right, I'm going to try and rush this, everyone. All right, so I want to create something like a cool kind of graphic here
Cool.
on the homepage, something that feels a little kind of sporty, also goes on with the brand. So I'm going to just quickly open up Photoshop here. And I'm going to make this, let's see, what size should I make this? This is 1416. I'm going to make it a height of 830, and I'm just going to make it 150 resolution.
Screen.
Yeah,
Not for y'all.
exactly. All right, so what I'm going to try and do here is just kind of create something kind of really cool. Just, there are like these kind of athletes that have been using the products and stuff like that. So I'm going to just try and see if I can create like a cool kind of collage graphic here. for this, and kind of bring it into the home page. It'll be fun.
All right. I'm just gonna tackle some questions here that are in the chat. First off, Voodoo Val's just got a deep love for Michael Jordan. Deep in the sense that when she was young, when her uncle was young, he attended a basketball camp and found out that his mother had fallen ill and would probably pass away. So Michael Jordan was kind of just found out and hopped on a plane and went to see her. Like, that's amazing. Like,
Wow.
I didn't know, like, Michael Jordan is a really good dude, like, you know, and the legacy of basketball is like kind of secondary to some of the just like personal things that he's done for people. So that's a really good story. Yeah. So
yeah, that's really
Michael
cool.
Jordan's the man. So is it designer's job to design various screens or the dev's job? That's a good question. So yeah, like when we're designing, so yes, we design the screens and the flow and the story of every potential situation that you would get in the flow of any sort of product or web experience. So yeah, we actually do design all of those screens and pages and input all of the content, maybe with a copywriter or someone who supplies us with imagery, like a marketing team. So yeah, there's different levels of people that sometimes create the assets for a complete total experience. But it is the developer's job to then implement what they see into a digital space. So they might have like these pieces that you've made with your components and your design system, but you are the one that creates those imagery that they reuse. So it is kind of both, right? It's the designer's job to like show every single screen and design every single screen, even though it might be the same as the one right before it, just with like a few differences.
Yeah. You kind of want to not leave anything to guess, right?
No,
so
nothing to guess, because if you've dealt with developers before, they will ask those questions and you'll have to answer them anyways.
Right.
Nothing is, you can't be vague.
And it also just makes things easier, right?
Does.
Like
communication is clear.
Communication, it keeps it consistent. I'm going to be using some of these professional athletes, kind of using the product. I'm going to create some kind of cool, just like again, like some kind of cool collage or something like this that would feel like like an image that
This is
that's Russell Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook using the product in context.
Exactly.
That's exactly what we want to see. Yes. Yes, and if you are joining us, we are almost at the end of our broadcast with Ambert Rodriguez from Wheelhouse.io, and he's kind of getting through the first portion of the web experience for the rebrand and redesign of the Hyperice e-commerce site. So right now we're he's taking us through like potentially like a banner image collage using in context photos of athletes or people that would use the product. So this is really cool. And if you happen to have maybe some free time on your hands, stick around for after this broadcast. It's going to be our the kickoff for the daily creative challenge with Jesse Showalter, and he's got a lot of really cool things with really new features that have come out, and just like new ways to kind of get your work explored by a community on the Discord channel. So definitely stick with the program and watch Jesse do his thing, design with him. Just remember, when you're in this challenge, if you do take part in the challenge, it's not a competition. It is really just a community of designers that are trying to get better at designing. And it's a very, very vibrant and supportive community. So I highly encourage everyone to take part and at least watch the stream and see some of the tips and tricks that Jesse has. It's a really, really cool opportunity to engage with a designer in person. It's really cool. Yeah. Hello from Brazil, Wagner Jr. You got us at the end of the broadcast, but make sure to stay here for the Adobe Creative Challenge. coming up right after this. And just so everybody else knows too, this is day 1 with Ambert. So tomorrow is day 2. So that is going to be at 12 p.m. Pacific time. And if you haven't noticed, Ambert and I are both in different time zones. I'm in Central and he's on Eastern. So we're really just kind of all over the map here, broadcasting from a West Coast time zone. I'm in Austin, Texas. Ambert's in Miami, Florida, and we're talking to people from Brazil, from
That's awesome.
from all over the place. So it's really a really cool community here.
And so I don't know if you've noticed already or anything like that, but I'm just creating kind of these like little style elements and stuff like that,
and kind of just different. Yeah, I love the collage work.
Yeah,
so like far, the more random, the better.
Yeah, so far so good. And I think this is cool. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to I'm going to just save this as a JPEG here.
All right, and as Ambert kind of gets this last image saved, we are going to sign off for the day and be back tomorrow. So if everybody would kind of come back, that was everybody here that was commenting in the chat, come back tomorrow and join us and see what happens next with this design and pushing it further and asking more questions and hanging out with us. Look at that. That's really awesome. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Ooh, look, that's going to be cool.
Yeah,
really cool. Amber, any final words for today's broadcast?
No, I think I've had a good time. I'm excited. I'm excited to finish it up tomorrow.
Nice. So everybody out there, thank you for joining us. Remember to stay tuned for the Daily Creative Challenge and come back tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern. We're going to finish up this e-commerce redesign for Hyperrice. Awesome. Thanks again.